Hello everybody and welcome back to the Athlete Podcast. Today I'm joined by Cory Jones, a Welsh international boxer. Hello Cory.
Hello, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. It's a pleasure to have you on the show. So we're going to start with how you got into boxing. Could you tell us sort of like a shorter story of how that happened?
Alright, so when I was 8 years old, my mum put me into kickboxing.
Yeah.
Because I was really, really small in school, like really small.
Yeah, you said this. You was it 26?
I was like 26.5 kilo in my medical card. That was my first weigh-in when I started boxing.
Oh my god.
So I was probably even lighter again then. But yeah, so she put me into kickboxing and I wasn't very good. With like the kicking aspect of things. But when it came to like the more hand stuff and all that kind of stuff, I was a lot more better. I got sent to Milo Boxing Club. But I think it was within about 6 months, that was my first skills fight. And it all kicked off from there. It was great to be honest. I'm happy I've done it now.
Mm-hmm. What was sort of early life as a boxer, going around competing and things like that? What did your training look like? What were you eating any differently, or? I
think in terms of when I first started, I think for me it was more of a hobby. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't so much like my life like it is now. It was just something to get me out of the house because I used to play on games too much. I used to watch loads of telly, stuff like that. I wouldn't change what I've done. But when I first started fighting, because I was so small, in terms of travelling and stuff, I had to do a lot of travelling because there's not many people around our area that were 26.5 kilo at 10, 11 years old. Do you know what I mean? So it was hard to find fights at that time. But I did eventually grow something like last year or something like that.
Something like last year, bloody hell. So you started around like maybe late primary school, right? And then 11 years old you go into high school, like year 7, right?
Yeah.
So you're still doing your boxing, but you're sort of competing and whatnot now. You know, as you get further into your teenage years, you probably get like a little bit more serious. You start training a little bit differently. Start going to the gym, especially alongside your training. What does that do to your sort of social life in high school? Do you find that you're just hanging around with a load of other boxers, or?
I think in terms, when I was in high school, I did care a lot more about my audience and who I was hanging around with. Do you know, this so-called like popular, being popular and all this. I cared a lot more in high school, but I think since I've left high school, I've found myself a lot more as a person, and I found that it doesn't matter who you hang around with. It doesn't matter how you look to other people. Mm-hmm. You go with what you are at the end of the day, and that's all you can do. You know, if you're 5 foot tall, if you're 6 foot tall, you go with what you are.
Would you say that that's a lesson that boxing has taught you?
Definitely, yeah. Amongst like other lessons like discipline, routine. Boxing literally is a way of life. It's not just a training and turning up. Do you know what I mean? It has literally took over my whole life, my whole social life. I've had to miss out on events. Birthdays when I'm making weight, all that kind of stuff. Do you know what I mean? It is tough.
That's the thing that a lot of people don't really see in sport. They see the success, they see the surface level stuff like training, competing and whatnot. Yeah. They all you see that, but it's the discipline and the hidden things that you lose out on in sport that really interest me, at least. Yeah. The discipline to be able to eat the same every single day and just be happy with it. I know that you said earlier you got a sweet tooth, so I'm sure it's pretty difficult.
Oh, kills me. I love my cakes, my donuts, all that kind of stuff. It's not actual meals, to be honest. It's really not. It's not meals that affect me. It's just the like sweets, cans of pop. I'm the worst for.
Oh really?
Oh, cans of pop. Interesting. Honest to God, I've got like a mini fridge in my room, like for when I'm not fighting and stuff.
Okay, that's not.
I've just got cans of pop in there. Obviously zero sugar and stuff. I just love stuff like that. Ice lollies is another one.
I like ice lollies.
Yeah.
I like to be honest, I'm gonna give it. Do you remember those Mr. Freezers?
They're called like Jubblies, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, I had some of them yesterday.
They come like a liquid in a bag, pretty much. And you gotta go freeze them.
Underrated one, Fabs.
Fabs are fantastic. So you're not even tempted for like a Chinese, nothing like that.
I think it's important. I think one of the most important things for me is balance in life, and I think in terms of training, I think it's important to have like cheat days, rest days. I think resting is just as important as training sometimes.
No, definitely.
In terms of like now, like I'm injured and I've learned a big lesson from it, probably from overtraining. And for those people who are training, not taking necessary breaks, not taking necessary times to have these little cheat meals and make themselves happy. Do you know what I mean? It's like that's what can happen, like what's happened to me now, and I think it's important for people to get a good balance in life and good structure as well.
Yeah. That's the sort of thing that drives you insane, is imbalance. Imbalance in any way, imbalance towards the, maybe the more evil, the Fabs of the world.
Yeah.
And then the chicken Caesar salads, the boring stuff that you don't really want to eat every single day, but you kind of have to.
Yeah.
So at the time when you were in high school, what did a regular meal look like for you? Was it anything special? Were you focusing on getting a lot of protein in, or?
Do you know what? When I was in high school, it was more... When I was in high school, I did kind of, I don't think I started taking boxing as serious until I was past year 8.
Yeah.
Because so when I first joined up, I was just eating what the school meals were, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
they were I don't know, your regular school meals, like hot dogs and what have you. I was eating that, but when I did have
I'm going to say something. Did you have the Pasta King?
Yes.
Yeah.
Booming.
The Pasta King.
I used to have all that stuff. There was one thing called a turbo box as well.
I never had a turbo box.
Mozzarella sticks, like a pita bread, chips and stuff like that. They used to do on a Wednesday, I think it was.
Okay.
But like I say, in terms of when I had a fight coming up after that year 8 period, I would come in. I'd have a container. I'd have chicken and rice. I'd have water.
Do you know what? We had another boxer on the podcast maybe a couple of weeks ago, Roberto Lacour, and he said the exact same thing. He was like, there was nothing I could do. I had chicken, I had rice, I had water, and if there were no fights coming up, I'd maybe get some sauce on that chicken and rice.
Yeah, it is. It's like I say, it's about being disciplined, and when everyone else around you is doing other stuff, having these kind of foods, you got to stay mentally strong at the end of the day because otherwise it will affect you. And I think there's one thing with foods as well. I think, speaking of foods, too much of bad foods is obviously going to be bad for you, but it's not bad to have now and then. I think it's important to have the balance. Have a Chinese, have a cake. Do you know what I mean, on the weekend? But just set it into, for me, I like routine. So normally my cheat days and stuff is a Saturday, and I'll have what I want on the Saturday. Don't get me wrong, it'll affect me. I'll feel a bit thing now because I've had this, I've had that. But on a Sunday and a Monday or whatever, like I say, I'm back to routine and you're feeling back to normal then.
Yeah, exactly. It is all about that discipline, and especially somehow it rears its head in every single aspect of sport. Showing up every single day, it's discipline. Yeah. Eating the right things, it's discipline. Even just discipline yourself to get through a cut or a training camp, going towards a fight, to stick with the program and get yourself to the end goal, which the end goal for you, when you think about it, is you're thinking of medaling, you're thinking of belts, you're thinking of being a champion, right?
Yeah.
But when you're in a camp, the end goal is to just get through it and to make the end and become a better fighter by the end of it, ready for your competition, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so
that's exactly it. Yeah, 100%.
And so it's all discipline, every single aspect of it. It's just that's the part, it's sort of pulling the strings in the background, isn't it? Really, it's the part that people don't see in sport, at least. So can you tell us a little bit more about sort of moving on from high school now? You're getting into senior, and I know that you've won you've won one international tournament as a senior, and you've also medalled bronze, but you're coming up against some pretty tough opponents now.
Yeah, I am now. I think there's a big, last year I was a youth, you still have the head guards on, you're fighting people close to your age, obviously close to your weight, as always.
Yeah.
But when I made this transition to seniors, I was overthinking it, if I'm being honest. All the head guards coming off now, I'm thinking, if I get caught, what's going to happen? Am I going to buckle? Am I going to have a good chin? Stuff like this. Mm-hmm. But when it came to it, when I've had my first couple, I feel like I'm settling in nice now. Say I'm young, I'm in my first year, good things come to those who wait, I think. And I done well as a youth, but like I say, when I won this tournament in Romania, it was kind of it made me very happy, and it feels like all the weight was worth it. All these losses I've took, because in the amateurs you don't go. It's not like you don't go undefeated. You don't. Stuff like that doesn't happen. But like I say, I've had 63 fights, and it's a lot of fights to have. And there's people who've had double the fights I've had. But there's more experience to be picked up. And like I say, you can't beat experience. My first senior fight, like I was telling you, was against someone who's fought for a world title in pros, and he came back to amateur, Samuel Carmona. And I remember.
And I looked at him and he's a big guy.
He was a strong. He's smaller than me in person, but he's just wide. Like say he's a man.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I feel like that's a big difference when you're coming into the seniors is this man strength, and it's taking the time to kind of build up the man strength and catch up to them. But to win, like I say, to medal in multiple of these tournaments, I had in the British this year as well. That Lithuania tournament, the Sokias, winning the Moldovan belt. I've done well for my first year senior, and you can only get better. You're only going to get better from that, 100%.
And not only that, but you've also won senior national as well.
Yeah,
and that was your first senior national.
Yeah, so I've won schoolboy Welsh title, junior Welsh title, 2 youth Welsh titles, and also a senior one in my first year. So I'm fighting against a lot older people as well, and I'm doing well at the moment. But you know, I'm always searching for more, and I feel like that's the main part of. I'm never fully satisfied with what I'm achieving. Like if I get a Welsh title, I want a British title. Once I get a British title, I want a European. You're never fully satisfied until you've got it all, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? And you've done the most you can do.
So, on the topic of searching for more, can you tell us about what the pathway would look like for you now, going from your Welsh champion, you've medalled internationally, and you're generally recognised now on an international stage as a talented young boxer. What does the pathway look like for you now?
I think for me, what I want to do is, obviously I'm on the team now for hopefully to go to the next Commonwealth Games in 2026. That's the main goal of mine, I think. But leading up to that, I'd like to hopefully get the chance to get onto Team GB boxing. I think they're the best. That's the pinnacle almost that you can be at in the amateur boxing scene. Medal at Europeans hopefully, and just keep picking up experience, because that's what the amateurs is all about. Amateurs is all about picking up experience. It doesn't matter about your records. As they say, the saying is records are for DJs in the amateur boxing club. That's what the saying is. Honestly, it doesn't matter. Like that's how I see it. I used to really care about losing and all this stuff, but I don't care anymore. Obviously I do to a certain extent, but I just look at everything as experience, and a loss isn't a loss, it's a lesson. Yeah, exactly. And that's the main thing for me.
Because from what you've been explaining, it seems like things are nowhere near as black and white as they are when it comes to professional boxing and amateur. But equally, I mean, to stay on, on topic with things not being black and white, amateur is professional, but it's called amateur.
Yeah, it's like you can get high level amateurs, but this is the thing I was trying to say to you with amateur boxing. It's almost like your CV for a job, and you're trying to get for when you do eventually decide to go pro. You've got all this CV, then you've got all the I've won this, I've won that, I've had this many fights, and that's what kind of builds into a pro. Then, like most people, if I wanted to, I could turn pro now, but it would be unrealistic for me because I haven't done as much as I want to do, and you're just setting yourself up to have to climb an even bigger ladder, if that makes sense. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
I feel it confuses me a lot of the time.
It confuses a lot of people because I got a lot of people asking me like, "Oh, are you going to try and turn pro soon?" It's like it's not majorly difficult to turn pro. It's just hard to get where like the money is and where the good fights are and this and that. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So you're looking at currently. You're in the pipeline for the Commonwealth Games, right, in Glasgow 2026.
Yeah.
What are the how do you qualify for that? What's the parameters?
If I'm being honest, I'm not too sure how the qualifying stuff works. I've been on the team for a very long time, since I was the age of 12. I've been boxing for Wales, and I've kind of built myself up. There's like a development program, and then you go up to like the senior program where I am, which is called the elite team. But yeah, like I say, it's not really. I don't really know the answers to that question. Really, if I'm being honest, like I don't know how it works.
But
how they pick. But I'm pretty sure it's just like you say. If you've been on the team for a while, you've medalled at tournaments, you've done well, and you're doing well, and they don't see no problems, and obviously I don't see why you can't go, kind of thing.
But the reason you didn't go to the last one in Birmingham was because you weren't old enough. Right?
Yeah, I wasn't old enough, and plus you've got people who were a lot older than me who have been waiting to go for a while, so it would have been difficult to make that one even if I was old enough. Do you know what I mean? So
I see what you mean. Well, I mean, it's an interesting time, certainly, isn't it? And then, following Commonwealths, there's the Europeans as the Worlds,
Yeah.
I know that you missed out on the European Championships this year because of your injury, correct?
Yes, but also because Wales they don't really... The Welsh team, the lads who are with Team GB are the ones who go to that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But because they'd rather have, obviously, rightfully so, having funding to go to more tournaments, more experience for all us boxers, which I think is right, to be honest. Because, like you say, you can't buy experience, and that's the
absolutely not. Absolutely not. So tell us a little bit about your injury at the minute. How did it happen? What's the story behind it?
So I was out in Romania. I was boxing in the Moldovan belt tournament.
Okay.
I won the tournament. I boxed 3 times. I beat the Romanian champion, the Ukrainian champion, and also the Israel champion in the final.
Very nice.
In the final, I threw a shot, and I must have overextended, something like that.
Yeah.
And it's aggravated my back. So I've got out the ring.
Mm-hmm.
Adrenaline's pumped, obviously.
Yeah,
I'm not
can't
feeling
feel
it.
a thing, can
Once
you?
I sit down, start taking my boots off, I go to stand up, and I'm like, I can't stand up. My back is killing.
Yeah.
So I thought it was just because I was aching because I'd had 3 fights in 1 week. Do you know what I mean? It's one of them, making weight day after day. I just thought I was tired, drained, surely gonna be aching. But when it came to it, I got home and I got an MRI scan, and it turned out that I had a slip disc. All they said to me is all I can do. I'm now with physio, and don't get me wrong, I'm still in pain now. It's still not right.
Yeah.
But now I've started physio, it's almost like the light at the end. I can see the light at the end of a tunnel, and I've got something to work towards to finally get back in the new year, which isn't long away now.
Okay.
Like I say, I should be back training properly in early January, so we'll soon be back taking over, hopefully.
What's your rehab like then? What sort of exercise have they got you doing?
This is my first week, and it's kind of more like this week's mobility, getting that mobility right, getting the movements kind of the same as what I was doing, strengthening my back. To where it was, because my disc is never going to be in the same place now. It's got to strengthen. It's got to strengthen the position where it is. So, but yeah, like I say, I will soon be back, and I will be
tearing it up. I'm sure. So let's jump over to a little bit about cutting, because I'm pretty interested in this. I'm not hugely versed in it, to be honest. I understand that you cut weight to get down to the weight that you need to be fighting at, and then you weigh in, and then following that you can sort of just, it's a free for all. It's whoever can get the most food in their mouth after that.
A bit mistaken there, because with the difference is between pro boxing and amateur boxing. So if you're a pro boxer and you're cutting weight, you weigh in the day before, and you've got the whole day to kind of, the whole of the next day or whatever, to whenever the weigh-in is, to rehydrate, to get all this food, get all this energy back into you. Whereas with the amateur boxing, with what I do, you've kind of got so for example, with Romania, I weighed in on the day, the same day I boxed. Boxed Romanian champion, won, and then boxing the next day, which means I have to make weight again. I have to be very careful with what I put back into my body, almost, because I need to. If I win, then I've got to make weight. And keep making weight. So as soon as I'm finished, I'm in layers in a hoodie.
So it's almost like running a gauntlet, really, isn't it? You got to continue going, and you must be so tired, even by the second fight.
Yeah, it does have a toll on you.
Yeah.
And I think that's why being at the right, correct weight is very important, because you do need, like you say, the right amounts of energy. There's some people who cut too much weight and they're drained and they're feeling a bit dead for the fight. Whereas me, I feel quite strong at my weight, because I used to be a 51 when I was a youth. And that was a killer, and I felt drained, and I wasn't feeling right. Even in training, you've got to. It's like trying to run a car with no fuel. Do you know what I mean? It's not going to happen. You need the right amount of food in your body to train to your full potential. Do you know what I mean?
So how would you say the strategy with the cut and how you're going to handle that? I assume there's quite a strategy behind it, at least. How would you say that affects the fights that you go into?
If I'm being honest, when it comes to weight making for me, I'm quite good at walking around tidy. There's some people who cut massive amount of weight, whereas me, I walk around like only like 1.5 kilos, 2 kilos over at most over my weight. And then when it comes to the last week, that final little kilo cut is the hardest part, because you've got to like sweat. You've got to really watch what you eat, and like say that's where discipline comes into it. And not eating the wrong things. That's going to affect your performance and stuff like that. You know, there is a lot more to it than just jumping on the scales and fighting. You know, there's a lot of battles outside of boxing.
What's the worst cut that you've ever experienced then?
When I was 51, I can say it now. So I was fighting at 51 kilos in the British, and I was a youth. I wasn't a senior then, so I was fighting with head guards on still. Made 51 kilo, but the night before, I think I was still 1.5 kilos, nearly 2 kilos over. So I was in a hot bath for the whole night.
Jesus
or not the whole night, but almost the whole night, just sitting there in a boiling hot bath,
just
trying
to
to get
sweat
weight off
out
me,
there.
skipping, and
That's
I
wild.
really struggled, and I felt dead in when I was fighting. But like I say, that's when I decided, right, it's time to move up now, because I can't. Health is more important. Do you know what I mean? Like, you've got to think about your health sometimes.
It's got to be
as
bad
well.
for your body doing it. It
100%.
has to be.
It is bad for your body.
It's wild.
You get some people who like cut down and blow up loads in between fights as well.
Yeah, like Paddy.
I knew you were going to say him straight away.
He's honestly, it's almost like he's famous for it, to be honest.
Yeah, some people say it's bad for you, but like, what does he say? I'd rather be fat and happy, lad. That's what he said. Do you know what I mean? You get some people who, he said, what does he say? Some people who are ripped all year round and on weight all year round, they're not happy.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'd say to that. Like, I feel okay in myself. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think, I could probably do with a McDonald's or a Chinese now or something. But
it's at the right time. Though,
at the right times, yeah. And that's when you feel like it's more deserved as well.
Exactly. Yeah. Not when you just like run out.
Yeah.
12
and
midnight
overdoing it almost.
Yeah. Exactly. Or maybe even ordering too much. Who knows?
Yeah.
So I mean, on the topic of cheat meals, I know you're not really big into it, as you said earlier. You're more into like your fizzy drinks and whatnot.
Yeah.
But when would you say is the right time then, for you at least in your sport? When's the right time to have a treat?
So for me, I struggle with relaxing, and I'm not sure if a lot of athletes in any sport struggle with relaxing, because sometimes when I relax, I feel like you're being lazy. Yeah, you could be doing this, you could be doing that.
Yeah.
And I do struggle with that. So when I eat what I want and have this cheat meal, sometimes it does make me feel bad, but that's not like physically bad. It's just it's all in the mind.
Yeah.
And I don't feel right sometimes. So, and there's a lot of people who say to me, you do need to learn how to rest more. Like I'm all for saying, right, you need to relax. You need to have a good like a schedule almost and stuff like that. But I'm not the greatest at it, and there is definitely room for improvement, like there is for all of us. And I definitely do need to not take for granted the times where I can enjoy myself. Like now, to be honest, like there's nothing coming up for me now. If I wanted to, I could be really making the most of it, but I'm still in the back of my head still now. I'm thinking, you need to be doing this, or you need to be going for a walk, burning these calories, doing this. And it's not good for you. It's not good for you, but I think sometimes it's what makes us what we are. Do you know what I mean? And that's what we go with. And I do struggle with that 100%.
Everyone needs a little bit of laziness.
Yeah.
100%. Because I run myself into the ground most weeks just doing stuff. Usually on any given weekday, I'm not sitting down at home until about 9 p.m.
Natural work ethic, isn't it?
And it's just, well, to be honest, I wouldn't say it's my work ethic. It just happens like that every single night. It seems to be, at least.
Yeah.
I just that's when I sit down to eat my tea, because making dinner's the last thing I do in the evening.
Yeah.
I get home, make dinner, and then boom, it's 9 o'clock, and I'm thinking, what? Are you kidding?
Yeah.
Can't be 9 o'clock.
Well, they say you've got 24 hours in a day.
I mean, yeah.
It's like you do whatever you can in them days, you know what I mean?
Exactly, yeah. You don't really... I understand what you mean, because you want to make every single day count, but it's true that everybody needs the time to just rest and do nothing, because doing nothing, honestly, it's one of God's gifts.
Yeah, well, it's taught me a big lesson, though, this injury.
Yeah.
It's teaching me a big lesson. There's a lot of things, whereas with I've had bad food habits in the past where I won't eat enough and stuff like that. But now I'm finally learning, even when I'm not training, it doesn't mean I'm going to fly up in weight. I haven't put barely any weight on, because I've been eating good, and I'm not training. So that's kind of shown me a big lesson. And it's also like teaching me a lot mentally. Like I can kind of handle myself without boxing in that way as well. Because sometimes I've told myself that I don't know what I'd be without boxing. I don't know what I'd do without it, kind of thing. Yeah. But this has taught me another lesson again. It's made me mentally stronger, and it's only going to better me for the future when I'm fighting again. 100%.
Yeah. So that is honestly, that's a really difficult thing to come back and say something to. I can't lie.
Yeah.
I get what you mean when you say that without boxing, you sort of feel like you don't know where you would be, but it's all of these different lessons that you talk about that make you who you are.
Yeah.
In this moment, at least. And then in boxing, you know, if you leave it behind, or if you keep going with it, you're gonna just continue sticking with the things that you've learned from it. You know, it's something it's like riding a bike, really. You know, it teaches you these things, and then you sort of know in the back of your mind, I can't really let go of this discipline. I can't really get lazy now. I've got to keep up there. You know, if you ever gave up boxing, you'd still know that you've got to eat well, you'd still know how to feed yourself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's that mentality as well. Because the thing is like, as a boxer, I'm gonna have a strong mentality, and I can use that. I can use that energy in other stuff, and not just in terms of boxing. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it can be used for like work, or it can be used for me. Right, I'm on a personal training course now. For example, I can put all my work ethic and energy into that.
Exactly.
You can put it into everything, and you can use it for all these kinds of different stuff. Yeah, if that makes sense. Not just boxing.
So, would you recommend that a young person takes up boxing as a sport?
I would highly recommend for a young person to take up boxing, especially like if they're getting into trouble and stuff like that. I feel like it teaches the main things that boxing has taught me is that it's taught me discipline. Mm-hmm. It's also taught me that the biggest lesson is there's always someone better than you. There is always going to be someone better than you, and also never think that you are complete. Never think that, right, I'm great now, I can't improve anymore. There's always room for improvement, and especially in boxing, constantly learning every day. Like me now, I'm nowhere near perfect. Like, I've got loads of stuff I need to work on, and from what I know now and all my experience, I'd love to pass on to younger people 100%, because like my story, like my struggles and stuff, I'd love to help younger kids out and kind of just show them what they can achieve, basically, if that makes sense. Just show them what they can achieve when they put their mind to something, because anything can be done. And that's my mentality now. Like, in my head, I haven't achieved anything. That's the mentality I've got. I've done nothing, because that's what I mean. Like, that's honestly how I work. It's like, I've won the 5 Welsh titles, but so what? Same with like the Moldovan belt. So what? There's more to be done.
Yeah.
And that's just my mentality to have. Sometimes, again, something I need to learn to do is like realize the stuff I've achieved. Like, when I was younger, I was wishing for this moment and these moments, but yeah, so it's one of them.
Wow. Thank you very much for coming along and joining us.
No worries.
To be honest, I think that's a perfect note to end it on.
Yeah.
You've got more to do, and I'm sure we'll be looking out to see you at the Commonwealth Games, maybe even European Championships, and maybe even you might end up on DAZN or on a Sky Red button or something one day. You know, we'll
dream big. That's the main thing. Dream big.
Exactly. Well, I mean, we'll be looking out for you. We hope that we can sort of, through the athlete events that you do, we hope that we can fund a lot of the training and whatnot that goes into your career. So
thank you very much.
Hopefully you can make it big and keep working, keep that discipline up there.
Yeah, and it won't go. It will never leave.
It will never exactly, because that's a lesson taught by boxing. And lesson taught by boxing, they stick apparently.
Yeah.
100%. I don't know. I don't box.
You should try it.
I should definitely, because I mean, I'm already tall. I'd be very scary if I also box, to be honest.
I don't know. Well, again, there's weight categories for a reason as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
See, I wonder what weight you'd box at.
I don't think I want to know what.
But you'd have to get down to a certain weight. Do you know what I mean?
I don't want to know what those people look like at my weight. They would be absolute monsters, I'm sure. But thank you very much for joining us, and thank you everybody else for joining and listening. And we hope to see you next time. Bye.